To the states now where the endless autopsies of the Democrats' demise is still underway, with one of the most prevailing questions being, how on earth do you raise over $1 billion and blow even more of that and still lose? Here's DNC spokesperson Lindy Lee asking this very question, saying, heck, I was one of the people who helped raise this record-breaking amount of money, and I've got to answer to the people who donated.
The truth is, this is just an epic disaster. This is a $1 billion disaster. Actually, it was $1.018 billion, I think, right? There were $20 million or $18 million dollars in debt.
Right.
It's incredible. And I raised millions of that. I have friends that I have to be accountable to and to explain what happened, because I told them it was a margin of error race. I was promised, Jen O'Malley Dillon promised all of us that Harris would win.
Money can't buy your love, people. And in a classic backhanded burn by President Trump, he's offering to pay off the $2 million that they have in debt. Check out this post on Truth Social. He says, I am very surprised that the Democrats, who fought a hard and valiant fight in the 2020, he says, but he means 2024. He posted this on Saturday night. In the presidential election, raising a record amount of money, didn't have lots of money left over. Now they are being squeezed by vendors and others. Whatever we can do to help them during this difficult period, I would strongly recommend we, as a party and for the sake of desperately needed unity, I suggest we do it. We have a lot of money left over, in that our biggest asset in the campaign was earned media. And that doesn't cost very much. Make America great again. Dear Democrats, you are going to need a lot of ice and a gallon of aloe vera for that burn. So the Trump administration raised just $381.5 million, right? They spent under that, and they spent just over $10 million on staff throughout the campaign. Compare the pair with the Harris administration, who raised over $1 billion, blew $1.37 billion on the campaign, and spent over $582 million just on staff alone. So the Trump campaign raised roughly just over a third of what the Harris campaign raised. They come in under budget because they're earned media all the way, whereas the Harris campaign spent almost $560 million just to get her and Tim Walz onto different shows and different podcasts, because nobody actually wanted them. Well, this adds insult to injury today, because the Federal Election Commission filings came out and it was laid bare before the entire world. What had the Harris campaign spent over $1 billion on? Well, you'd be shocked to find out the majority of it was on media. There was $5 million in there for private jets, $560 million, like I said, on media disbursements, not much used disbursements here. The list wears long, as you can imagine. But ex-users are having an absolute field day, highlighting how the Harris campaign completely blew this money. And one little item that has escaped nobody's notice is $1 million played to Oprah Winfrey. So Oprah Winfrey, one of the richest women in the world, who, along with the rest of the Harris campaign, told us she believed she was fighting the rise of the new Nazis led by a modern-day Hitler, still didn't believe enough in the cause to waive her 7-figure fee. I mean, this is so hilarious, and of course raises the question, how much did you splurge on all the other star endorsements? I mean, Kamala Harris had Beyonce came out, she had Bon Jovi perform, Lady Gaga perform, Katy Perry perform. How much did you spend on these people? And is it really an endorsement if you've paid me for it? I don't think
This
so.
explains why Cardi B was so upset when the teleprompter wasn't working, because she was afraid she wouldn't get an honorarium if she didn't give the speech properly. I mean, spending, twice as much money as you needed to for no result. It's just called Bidenomics. That's how it works. They campaign the way that they govern. They take other people's money, spend it for pretty much no return. The fact is, they thought because they had money and because they were cunning, and they spent millions advertising to Americans how racist and sexist they were, they thought, based on those two things, we can win this. But all the money in the world doesn't make a bad candidate likeable or a bad policy popular.
If I knew that I could have been paid $1 million to have some sort of weird online telecast thing for Kamala Harris and then rock up to one of her rallies and say, if you don't vote tomorrow, it'll be the last election ever. If I'd known I'd get $1 million for that, I would have done it a long time ago.
Oh,
I'm a
shame,
performer.
Caleb.
Tell me what you want me to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, he can be bought.
No. Look, I'm not in that way, no. But seriously, I cannot believe what they thought they would be able to do with this money and then what they turned it into. I mean, when she went on Call Her Daddy, the podcast, which did nowhere near the numbers of Joe Rogan, like the Rogan podcast across YouTube and Spotify has done more than 90 million listens or views.
Incredible.
The Call Her Daddy one did like less than 1 million, right? So what does that tell you about the interest levels? But they spent more than 6 figures on building the set, which, if you remember what that set looked like, it was pretty bloody ordinary. The Harris campaign spent more than $100,000 building the set for that podcast alone.
Only because Kamala didn't want to travel to
she wouldn't go anywhere.
That entire entry of funds just leaking out of the kitty was completely uncalled for. Get on a jolly plane, woman.
And I want to know.
Speaking of planes, they spent, what did you say, $5 million
on jets.
Private
jets over what, 3.5 months?
This was August to October.
And this is the party that are banging on about a climate crisis and climate change.
Of course, and I want to know, when you go through this list of like the top 500 companies that the campaign paid money to, you get down to one called Gusto. They paid $34.4 million to them. She didn't have a lot of gusto. For $34.4 million, I don't know where that gusto went. But it goes to prove once again, you can have, and we talked about this last week, you can have all the star power you want. You can have all the money in the world. If you don't actually have a product to sell to the voters, it ain't going to work. She couldn't be sold because she's just not much to listen to or look at as a performer, as a politician. She's just so uninspiring, and she didn't have any policies.
Zero
Whereas
substance.
Trump, he doesn't need to pay for all of that. He can get up at the rallies and explain what he actually thinks. He's an entertainer. He doesn't need celebrities around him. He is the celebrity. He doesn't have to pay for it because he's actually good at the job. What a novel idea.